Smoke filled the sky as explosions shook the valley below. Ships fell like burning stars from the heavens, and the screams of the wounded echoed across the battlefield. The war had begun without warning, a sudden strike from an alien race that no one on Earth had ever seen before. They called themselves the HFY, terrifying blend of armor and biology, with glowing eyes and skin like molten metal. Humanity's weapons barely scratched them, and every attempt to talk peace ended with bloodshed. People feared them, not just because of their strength, but because of how strange and unhealable their wounds were. Doctors couldn't save their own soldiers once infected by Viraxi weapons. The wounds twisted, burned, and spread like a living fire inside the body. Fear spread faster than the war itself. Hospitals turned into morgues. Civilians locked their doors. Soldiers hesitated to even fight. Among them was a quiet medic named Dr. Elias Marek. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't carry a gun. He only carried a worn-out medical kit and a strange belief that every life, even alien, deserved help. He had no idea that belief would change the galaxy. His unit had crashed behind enemy lines during an evacuation. The survivors were dying one by one. The only thing keeping them from total panic was Elias, who worked day and night, trying to treat wounds no one understood. But nothing worked. Until one night, something strange happened. A wounded Viraxi was dragged in by two scared soldiers. They had captured her while scouting. Her armor was cracked. Her breathing was shallow. She wasn't screaming or attacking. She just stared at Elias with glowing orange eyes, as if she had already accepted death. The soldiers argued to leave her, to die. But Elias stepped forward, knelt beside her, and opened his kit. He didn't ask for orders. He just began treating her like any other patient. She flinched but didn't resist. Her skin was hot, her blood dark and slow, and her body filled with strange organs that pulsed like engines. Elias didn't stop. He scanned, cleaned, and sealed her wounds. Then he did what no human had done before. He injected her with something new, a mix of human antibiotics and alien plant samples he had secretly tested on the wounded. It was a wild guess. A final try. The next morning, she was breathing steady. Her eyes opened again. And this time, there was no hate in them. Only confusion, then gratitude. She reached out, not to fight, but to touch Elias's hand. That touch sparked something more dangerous than war. The alien soldiers found the Viraxi female days later. She told them what Elias had done. She told them he didn't fear her, didn't run from her disease. He had healed what they feared most. Instead of killing him, they captured him. But it wasn't a prison. It was something far stranger. They brought him to a hidden chamber beneath their massive mothership. There, waiting in silence, stood the Viraxi High Matron, a figure whispered about in human intelligence files, but never seen before. The matron was ancient, tall and surrounded by biotech that pulsed with life. Her voice didn't need sound. It echoed in the mind. She studied Elias with deep, glowing eyes. Then she spoke one sentence that froze him in place. "You have touched the sacred illness. And now you carry the key to our survival." Elias didn't understand, not yet, but she explained. The disease wasn't just a weapon. It was a genetic curse, centuries old. A flaw in their kind that slowly killed them from inside. What humans thought was a weapon was actually a sickness they had turned into a shield. No one, not even the Viraxi themselves, could treat it. Until Elias, a human, a medic without armor, without rank. Just healing hands and stubborn hope. The matron bowed to him, and every alien in the room followed. Then came the offer. The treasure, not gold, not power, something deeper. She offered him their genetic vault, everything about their species, their secrets, their knowledge of life itself. And something else, her daughter, the same young female Elias had saved, knelt beside him again. She had chosen him by right of healing. In their culture, the one who cures the uncurable earns a bond deeper than marriage, older than politics. Elias's touch had changed her body. Now by their law, he belonged to her, and she to him. But not everyone in the Varaxi agreed. Some saw Elias as a threat. Others called him a freak. Even among humans, some believed he had betrayed his kind. The peace his actions sparked burned just as hot as the war he had paused. The galaxy stood still, watching one man and one alien girl. A medic and a warrior. A healer and a species' only hope. Elias stood inside a Varaxi chamber, surrounded by living walls pulsing with strange lights. The floor under his feet felt warm and alive. He had never imagined that alien technology could feel like walking on soft muscle instead of metal. The matron's voice still echoed in his thoughts. "You carry the key to our survival." The words haunted him as he watched the Varaxi girl approach once again. Her movements were graceful, almost human, but her glowing eyes and skin of hardened bio-armor reminded him of what she truly was, a weapon made flesh. And yet, she had bowed to him. Her name was Zura. That was all she gave him at first. She stood close but silent, waiting for his words. Elias wasn't sure what to say. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't a leader. He was just a medic trying to survive a war. But now he was in the center of something far greater. Zura finally spoke. "They do not trust you. Even now, many of them want your blood spilled." Her tone was calm, but her eyes betrayed concern. "But I claimed you. They cannot touch what belongs to me by right. You healed the sickness that cursed my people. That makes you sacred." Elias didn't understand alien customs, but one thing was clear. His actions had changed the war, and they had also changed Zura. She didn't speak like a soldier anymore. She spoke like someone who had begun to feel again. The Varaxi were dying slowly from within. Their disease, unknown to all, was part of their genetic code. Their ancestors had engineered perfection, but in doing so, planted a weakness that time could not erase. Elias's medicine had touched that code. His treatment had awakened dormant strands. Something in human biology triggered a reaction their kind never thought possible. Now, Zura's body was healing in ways even the matron hadn't expected. That night, Zura brought Elias to a private chamber. It wasn't a prison. It was a sanctuary. There were strange plants growing from the walls, glowing softly in the dark. She handed him a fruit that shimmered like silver, and sat beside him without armor. Her skin was smooth, but covered in tiny patterns like ancient runes. "Tell me," she said, "why did you save me? You knew what I was. You saw the fear in your people. Still, you touched me with gentle hands." "Why?" Elias looked at her, unsure how to answer. "Because you were dying," he said. "And I don't let people die when I can help. That's all I've ever known how to do." Zura closed her eyes. Her head tilted as if she were listening to something far away. "No one has ever touched me without fear," she whispered. "Not even my own kind. When you held my hand, it hurt. But it also healed something deeper." Outside the chamber, Varaxi guards moved silently. Some had started to kneel when Elias passed. Others tightened their weapons, waiting for orders. There was tension in every hallway, as if the entire ship held its breath. Word was spreading through the stars. A human had healed the unhealable. Allies and enemies alike were listening. Rumors leaked through secret channels back to Earth's command. Some leaders celebrated the news. Others wanted Elias retrieved at all costs. Or silenced. Back in the chamber, Elias was given access to the genetic vault. What he saw left him speechless. Centuries of data, memories, science, and secrets stored in living crystals. It was a universe of knowledge waiting for the right touch. The matron told him, "Take what you need. Help us finish the cure. But understand, if you succeed, you will become more than a healer. You will become part of us." He worked for days without sleep, testing new combinations, comparing human immune reactions to Viraxi cell behavior. Zura never left his side. She didn't speak often, but her presence steadied him. And her gaze reminded him that lives, millions of them, hung on his success. Finally, something changed. One of the test samples stopped burning through the alien cells. It stabilized. The sickness halted. Elias stared at the screen, his heart pounding. Then he saw something else. The cells weren't just resisting the disease. They were adapting, reshaping. The cells began mimicking Elias's own, a merging of species. A creation of something new. He had done it. He had started the cure. When he turned to Zura, she was crying, but not from pain. From something older. Hope. For the first time, she felt like her people could live beyond fear. She reached out and took Elias's hand again. This time, her hand was warm. The moment the cure took hold, a signal was sent across the ship. Not through machines, but through something biological. Every Viraxi could feel the change. It was in their veins, in their minds, in the soft vibration of the living walls. Around them, Zura's body was the first proof. Her skin began to glow with a steady, healthy light. The old pain in her chest faded. The weakness in her limbs was gone. She stood taller now, stronger, and with a quiet fire in her eyes. The matron summoned Elias again, but this time, she was not alone. A full circle of Viraxi elders stood behind her. They wore robes woven from memory silk, alive with glowing patterns that moved like water. This was not just a council. This was judgment. You have crossed a sacred threshold, the matron said. You have entered our blood, our history, our very shape, that cannot be undone. Nor will we try, but know this, human. Power attracts enemies. Elias remained silent. He didn't come to rule. He came to heal. But the Viraxi didn't see him as just a medic anymore. They saw him as the bearer of change. The one who broke a curse written in their bones. Zura stepped forward and spoke to the council. He is not a weapon. He is a bridge between what we were and what we can become. I will stand by his side, no matter what the old codes demand. The room was silent. Then one elder stepped back, then another, until all but one had given their silent approval. The last elder hissed, eyes burning. You bring weakness, he snarled. And weakness invites war. That elder vanished into the shadows before anyone could stop him. Later that night, an explosion tore through the lower chamber of the ship. A failed assassination. Someone had targeted Elias's lab. The cure samples were damaged. One assistant died. Elias himself barely escaped. Zura arrived covered in smoke, eyes wild. She pulled Elias from the wreckage and carried him to safety. Her armor, once ceremonial, now responded like a second skin. The blast hadn't hurt her, but it had shaken her faith in her people. They fear you now, she said, because they know your touch can remake us. That makes you dangerous to them, even more than their sickness. Elias looked around at the shattered remains of his work. Years of effort burned in a moment. But something stronger had survived, the knowledge. The data was stored in the vault. The cure could still be rebuilt. He reached for her hand. Then we keep going, he said. If it scares them, let them be scared, but I won't stop. Not when I've seen what's possible. She squeezed his hand in return. Far from the Viraxi ship, a human war council gathered. News of Elias's survival had spread, so had reports of him bonding with an alien. Some commanders called for extraction. Others whispered about betrayal. A meeting was held in secret. We cannot allow him to rewrite the enemy, one general said. A cure for them is a weapon against us. He must be retrieved or removed, but one voice stood apart. A scientist who had worked with Elias before. What if he's right? She asked. What if this war ends not with fire, but with healing? He's doing what none of us could. Don't stop him. Learn from him. That argument bought Elias time. But not safety. Back aboard the Varaxi ship, Zura took Elias to a hidden chamber deeper than any other. There, in the heart of the vessel, a strange energy pulsed. It wasn't metal, it wasn't flesh. It was something in between. A core of their ancient creation. This is where we were born, she said. Not as individuals. As a species. This seed holds the blueprint of what we are. And now with your touch, it can become what we must be next. Elias stared at the core. It glowed brighter as he approached, responding to his presence. He placed his hand on the surface. A shock ran through his body. Not pain, not power, understanding. He could see their story written in light, their rise, their pride, their fall, their fear, and now their hope. And in the center of it all, Zura stood beside him. Together, they were no longer just healer and patient. They were the choice between extinction and transformation. Asterisk, the transformation began slowly. At first, the change could only be seen under magnification. Varaxi cells that had once fought human medicine now embraced it. They were reshaping, bending, healing. What was once deadly was becoming life-giving. Elias and Zura spent every waking moment inside the core chamber. Data streamed through organic conduits. Crystals recorded each reaction. The ancient Varaxi seed pulsed brighter. Every time Elias added a new formula, the more human DNA was blended, the more stable the results became. Zura monitored his health closely. Her people still didn't fully trust his presence, and now even his biology was changing. The core was altering him too. Slowly, gently, his heartbeat matched the pulse of the ship. His thoughts were faster. His dreams no longer felt entirely human. She said nothing about it, but she watched with careful eyes. The matron visited them only once during that time. Her voice sounded older, deeper. "You are becoming one of us," she told Elias. "But you must understand, not all will accept this union. Some would rather see this sickness remain than allow our kind to evolve alongside yours." Elias replied with quiet certainty. "That's why we have to finish this. Before they stop us." Zura led him through an uncharted route in the ship's spine. It led to a chamber sealed by biolocks only she could open. Inside was a massive living archive, older than the matron herself. Stored here were Varaxi ancestors' failed cures, forbidden technologies, even ancient memories from when their kind first left their dying planet. It was there Elias found what he needed. A strand of code buried in one of the old genome failures. It wasn't a mistake. It was hidden on purpose. A forgotten truth. The disease wasn't natural. It was planted. Your sickness, Elias said, was a punishment. A genetic lock. Someone made sure your kind would suffer if you ever became too strong. Zura's face darkened. Then they feared what we might become, and chose pain over peace. Now Elias understood the full danger. He wasn't just fighting a disease. He was undoing a prison built into their blood. A chain placed there by ancestors or enemies long gone. If he removed it fully, the Varaxi might evolve beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen, and not everyone wanted that. As they returned from the archive, they found the corridor flooded with flashing red light. Alarms echoed through the walls. A voice crackled in Varaxi tongue. The elder who opposed the cure has launched a rebellion. Internal units are being seized. Bioreactors breached. Prepare for emergency lockdown. Zura drew her weapon. Her armor closed around her body like liquid steel. "They're coming for us," she said. He warned them what we've done. They'll try to destroy the core and kill you before the final phase is complete. Elias didn't hesitate. He grabbed his portable kit and a data crystal containing the latest formula. "Then we don't let them reach it. We finish the cure now, or we lose everything." They ran through the living halls, dodging crumbling walls and enemy fire. Some Viraxi soldiers, loyal to Zura, held the enemy back. Others fell, caught in the crossfire. The ship groaned like a beast in pain, reacting to the chaos inside. Inside the core chamber, Elias and Zura sealed the doors. The pulse of the seed was growing unstable. The energy flared and darkened. It could sense the threat. It was afraid. I have to inject the full cure into the seed, Elias said. If it accepts it, it will rewrite the Viraxi genome from the source. That means the disease ends here. Forever. Zura placed her hand on the console, unlocking the seed's outer layer. Do it, she said. Even if I don't survive. Do it for all of us? Elias placed the serum into the injector. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. Then he pressed the trigger. The seed screamed. A sound that wasn't sound. A vibration through bone and memory. The walls flashed with light. Zura collapsed, gasping. Elias grabbed her, holding her tight as the core pulsed one final time. Then everything went still. Zura opened her eyes and smiled. The silence after the pulse was deep and full of meaning. The seed no longer glowed with wild, unstable energy. It now pulsed calmly, steadily, like a heart at peace. The color of its light had changed from fiery red to a soft, living blue. Zura was breathing again, her body glowing with the same blue light. Her armor softened around her, no longer looking like a weapon but a living shell of harmony. Elias checked her vitals. Everything was normal, better than normal. She was the first of a new Viraxi. The door behind them split open. Armed rebels stormed in, weapons aimed and eyes furious. But they froze as soon as they saw her. Their weapons dropped slightly, their eyes widened. They saw her body, her light, her calm. You feel it, Zura said as she stood tall. The sickness is gone. You feel it in your blood. In your minds. You were afraid to change, but now you cannot deny it. He cured us. And if you kill him, you kill our only future. The soldiers looked at each other. Some dropped their weapons entirely. Others knelt. The rebellion was broken without a single shot, not by force, but by truth. The matron entered behind them, supported by two of her guards. Her breathing was heavy, her skin dim, but her voice remained strong. You saved us, she said to Elias. Not just from a sickness, from our own fear. That is why what I offer next cannot be undone. She raised a ceremonial blade. The crowd watched in total silence. Zura took Elias's hand. The matron spoke a single sentence. With this mark, I name you one of us. Bound not by blood, but by healing. She drew the blade gently across her palm. Then she reached forward and touched Elias's forehead. A thin blue light spread from her hand to his skin. It burned slightly, but it felt right. A bond, ancient and sacred, now lived in him. The Viraxi did not cheer. They bowed. The air was filled not with noise, but with peace. Afterward, Elias and Zura stood alone in the chamber. The seed pulsed behind them, a silent witness to what had been done. Everything has changed, Elias whispered. Not just you. I can feel it inside me too. Zura looked at him. You are no longer fully human, she said. You are something new. Something born from both our kinds. You carry the cure inside you now. You are the first of what may come next. Earth. Command received the signal soon after. A full data transmission with genetic proof. The Viraxi were no longer a threat. They were evolving. Not into weapons, but into healers. The war was no longer needed, but peace did not come easily. Some humans still demanded Elias be returned. They called him compromised. Others feared what his blood might now carry. Rumors began to rise. Was he still human? Or something else? Elias chose not to return, not yet. He sent a message to Earth instead. I did not betray humanity, he said. I saved another people. And in doing so, I may have found a better way for all of us. That message was broadcast. Across neutral channels, millions heard it. Some rejected it. Others wept. Zura and Elias walked through the great garden chambers of the ship. The plants now bloomed brighter. The air smelled sweet. Life was returning to places once filled with rot. The Veraxi ships no longer hunted. They healed. They explored. They welcomed. But shadows still lingered at the edge of stars. Not all alien species would welcome a healed Veraxi. Not all humans would trust a medic who had become more than a man. Elias knew more trials would come. But he was not afraid, because Zura walked beside him. Asterisk. The days that followed were not quiet. Peace had bloomed aboard the Veraxi ship, but the galaxy outside was still full of suspicion. Fleets moved through space with fingers near triggers. Every leader watched closely, unsure whether Elias had ended a war or begun something more dangerous. Zura met with commanders from allied species. She stood proudly with Elias beside her, no longer just a warrior but a symbol of rebirth. Her words were clear. We are not who we were. We carry no infection. Our future is bound to healing, not destruction. If you strike at us now, you strike at the hope of peace. Some listened. Some did not. A human delegation arrived days later. 3 ships docked at the edge of Veraxi space. They brought medical teams, diplomats, and armed escorts. Their goal was unclear. Elias stepped forward to meet them with Zura, standing under the living archway of the ship's entrance. The lead ambassador was an old colleague of Elias, Dr. Morella. Chun. She stepped off the ramp and stared at Elias with disbelief. You look different, she said. Like you've been rewritten. I have, Elias replied. But I'm still me. And I need you to believe in what we've done here. He guided her through the new Veraxi ship. She saw the gardens, the healing halls, the children playing without pain. The sickness was gone. But the fear had not left the eyes of the visitors. Morella examined Elias under full scan. She found traces of alien DNA, but more than that, she found harmony. No infection. No instability. Just evolution. A clean, shared design between 2 species once divided by war. You're not just a medic anymore, she said. You're a bridge. Maybe the only one the galaxy has left. She returned to her ship in silence. That night, a message went out from the human delegation to Earth's Central Command. Its contents were brief. The cure is real. The threat is gone. Recommend peace initiative, but peace never comes without cost. A hostile force struck without warning. A third party, warlord race known as the Verkai, launched a surprise attack on both Veraxi and human outer colonies. They feared unity. They feared what Elias had created. If 2 old enemies could become one, what power would that future hold? The matron called a war council. This time, Elias was present not as a guest, but as a voice of equal weight. Zura stood at his side, her armor glimmering with new energy drawn from the healed core. We must protect what we've built, Elias said. But we do not answer violence with conquest. We respond with strength and mercy together. That is what makes us different now. The Veraxi prepared their ships. But these ships were no longer built to destroy. They carried medics, engineers, and peacekeepers. For every weapon, they carried a cure. For every shield, they carried hope. Zura led the fleet. Elias remained at the central ship, monitoring the biological stability of every vessel. His knowledge was now linked to every living system in the fleet. His thoughts helped guide healing to every pilot, every warrior, every broken system. The Verkai expected fire. What they received was healing dropships landing on wounded colonies. They saw Veraxi giving food to humans. They saw Elias's voice broadcast into their war channels, not with threats but an invitation. You do not have to fight. You do not have to fall. The sickness we all carry can end if we choose to let it go. This is your chance. Some Verke surrendered. Others vanished into deep space. The battle ended not with destruction, but with something the stars had not seen in generations: mercy. The galaxy stood still as peace rippled across its fractured systems. The Viraxi no longer carried the fear of their ancient curse. The humans had witnessed a miracle born from mercy. And the man behind it all stood quietly at the heart of the new beginning. Elias Marek no longer wore the uniform of a battlefield medic. His body had changed, yes, but so had his purpose. He wore a suit grown from the Viraxi seed, marked with human insignias and Viraxi symbols joined together. Where others saw division, he had created unity. Zura remained by his side, not as a protector, not as a patient, but as his equal. Together, they traveled from system to system, carrying the cure not just in vials, but in their presence. People listened to them not because they commanded armies, but because they proved hope was stronger than fear. At the Galactic Conclave, long-separated species met again. Tensions ran high. Some refused to sit in the same room. Others prepared for conflict beneath polite words. But when Elias stepped forward, the hall fell into silence. "I do not speak as a human," he said. "I do not speak as a Viraxi. I speak as someone who was asked to save a life. And in doing so, I learned what life truly means. We all bleed. We also heal. If we allow it." He extended the final version of the cure to every species present. No secrets, no conditions, no demands. Only a choice. The matron, older now and preparing to pass her mantle to Zura, watched from afar with pride in her eyes. "He gave us more than medicine," she said softly. "He gave us a reason to believe in the future." The Viraxi no longer flew with war banners. Their ships carried seeds instead of missiles. Healing stations were built where fortresses once stood. Human medics were trained in Viraxi healing methods. The exchange became natural, shared, respected. Elias returned once to Earth. He walked through the same hospital halls where he had once cleaned battlefield wounds. This time, he was met not with suspicion, but with awe. Children touched his hand and laughed. Old commanders saluted him not out of duty, but out of respect. A memorial was built in his name, not to mark his death, but to honor what he had done while still living. It stood not in stone, but in living roots that grew upward toward the stars. Zura visited the place each year. She brought gifts from their people. Medicines, stories, knowledge written in crystalline light. The humans welcomed her not as an alien, but as family. When Elias's final days approached, he chose to remain aboard the ship that had first carried the cure. He walked its living halls, touched the glowing walls, and whispered thanks to the place where everything had changed. Zura stayed with him until the last breath. She held his hand and whispered words in both their languages. "You were never just one of us. You were the best of both of us." After he passed, the ship did not mourn with silence, it sang. A hum rose from its core, reaching through the stars, carried by every branch of the cure he left behind. His name became more than memory. It became part of the healing. Elias Marek was the bridge. The bond, the human who treated a disease and was given a galaxy in return. And the galaxy remembered.